Satsang-130. Brahman consciousness. Inchagiri Sampradaya Sunday, 8th December, 1935. If you try to imagine absolute Brahman, it is not possible because Brahman is non-conceptual. If you try to conceive of what Brahman is, you get only a zero. Concept or imagination is ignorance. Spiritual science says that there are 3 types of joy. When you get something which is liked, that gives you a kind of joy. For example, when a snake charmer gets a snake, he is happy because his concept is like that. That type of joy depends on the objects for which there is some liking. Another type of joy is the joy of knowledge, or the joy of understanding. The third type of joy is really only a pleasure for those who are indulging in sensual gratification from those objects. These sensual objects are a kind of demon. Those who enjoy knowledge can also have Brahmananda, which is the great joy or the bliss of Brahman. That joy is experienced by our own inner conviction that we are Brahman. But that joy is an attitude or a natural state. Be one with that. One can never be identical with God. The scriptures say that one can be identical with God, but it is not so. To become identical is an attitude. We do not become identical. Then how do we experience joy? The answer is that it is the joy of knowledge. The Sadguru, by his words, makes you aware of that joy. The limit of this joy of knowledge is up to the Nirvikalpa state, where there is no concepts or doubt. However, Brahman is beyond that state. If a man, basing his efforts on the description given in the scriptures, tries to grasp the idea of the Supreme Self, he only grasps an imaginary concept. As we have decided that Atman is according to our imagination, the self is colored by our intellect. As we insist that Atman is, we will get the experience according to that concept. And this is only God, created by our imagination. Brahman remains beyond all concepts. It is not seen by the eyes, and the mind cannot comprehend it. So, how then can one realize this? Light can be seen, and sky or space can be perceived, but Brahman is beyond these. How can that, which is not visible or perceptible, be recognized? How can that, which is inconceivable and beyond meditation, be gained by meditation? How can one attach oneself to that which has no attachment? How can one comment upon that where words do not reach? If one tries to meditate on Brahman, there is duality. And being afraid of duality, one leaves the very will to meditate, and all goes in vain. This approach leads nowhere. Therefore, it is necessary to do what the Guru has taught us. If very keen discrimination is not used, one only becomes confused. Discard the world with the help of knowledge. Anything that is second or other, as the imaginary person or individual, and all of these things are worldly and based only in illusion. The imaginary person who is of this world must die. The ego must be dissolved. The concept that I am a separate individual, a jiva, must be destroyed through self-inquiry and investigation. To do that is the true spirituality. It is not necessary to recognize what Brahman is. Only we must remove the I that is in between. It is enough if this I is gone. This I is itself the imaginary person. In fact, there is no such thing as I at all. Yet it seems to come into being. Brahman is something quite different from this I. Those who have only studied scriptures get confused when they try to understand the self. Those who only understand through a state or concept get deceived. There is no purpose of using examples here, because in that way the triad of seer, seen, and seen comes into existence. That which exists without the seen, or the meditator remembering it is Brahman. It is the natural withdrawal state. As long as there is desire that we should know ourself, the missing of it takes place. God is in your own home, the body, and is to be worshipped when you do puja. God is not to be brought in from outside. The Lord is your own original God, and you must do worship on only that. In fact, everything is only Brahman, absolute pure consciousness. Then what is false? Only imagination is false. Imagination is perceptible only in relation to what is untrue. That which is true is never disturbed. The king does not need to declare every now and then that he is king. Brahman is. It does not say that it is Brahman. What is, surely is. It cannot speak anything. Without saying so, it is self-existing. If a husband keeps on repeating, "I am the husband," people will start doubting him. If he is in fact the husband, why does he need to say so repeatedly? He is the husband without needing that expression. and Brahman is God, the Self. You should know this fully and let it go. Only Brahman is. Without meeting it through duality, it is perpetually only one. If you try to meet it, that act brings in separation. Such is Brahman, to which there is no path. It cannot be cut apart, cannot be separated, no matter how you may try. Brahman is, and it exists as it is. Had Brahman ever disappeared, then its name would not be truth. This is unfathomable without experience. One who says that he has understood has not really gone to that town. When the projecting or holding of any attitude, state, or concept is gone, the state of complete withdrawal comes into being. How can we meditate on the pure absolute consciousness, which cannot be thought of in meditation? Attitude is limited, and it cannot grasp that. It is not contained by mental attitude. Devotion is like a jar that went to bring an elephant inside of itself, but instead of its bringing in the elephant, it lost its life. Likewise, in devotion, the jiva thus dissolves itself. If you make a pun and yet you say that you do not understand, then you are lying. If you do not know the cause of death of a person, does it follow that he was not alive before death? Only the one who has been given instructions by the Guru really knows. If you do not understand, hold fast to the teaching given by the Guru with complete faith. The mind has a habit of projecting imagination. But Brahman is not a thing of imagination. Mind is born out of ego. Unless the ego is dropped, Brahman cannot be realized. When the ego goes, it is the Supreme Self that remains automatically. The doubt about what am I is itself the ego, or the sense of I. That ego sense cannot be burned, and it cannot be cut by any effort. This sense of I swallows the person. Even the desirelessness of one who has ego is useless. Only the one whose ego is dissolved gets real contentment. The key problem is how to drop the ego. There is a way for this. It comes through discernment, or discrimination with knowledge, and self-inquiry. What have we understood by listening to the teachings of Vedanta? We have understood that there are 5 elements and the one self. We have understood that we are nobody. We are not in this physical body. but we have believed that we are in the body. That is called the wrong knowledge or imagination. When this I is gone, whatever is, is. What remains is that. If you say that it is, then it is not. And if you say that it is not, then it is. That which is not described by not or neti is existing. Ego goes off by understanding this, and when this imaginary me dissolves, then millions of ideas are all only part of Brahman. Nir means not or not existing. Nirvikalpa means no concept or no imagination. When the imaginary person goes, what remains is only Param Atman, the living, speaking, walking, active God. Great is he who worships without the sense of I. One who has not realized God must worship him. But whom should God worship? Be Brahman and experience Brahman. The pleasure in the sense objects is the misidentification of the so-called individual. The joy in knowledge is Shiva, and the joy in Brahman is the Supreme Self. The world exists according to our concepts, our ideas. There is a story about a farmer and a widow during the lifetime of a Sadguru Shri Sahib Maharaj. It was the time of sowing the seeds in the field. So the farmer, ascertaining an auspicious day, according to his knowledge, went to the field, taking with him the yoke, the bulls, and the bags of seed. However, no sooner did he get out of the house, he saw a widow going by the road just in front of him. This was considered by him to be a very bad omen, and he felt very depressed and uttered an exclamation, "O God, what can be done now?" Exactly at that time, Shri Sahib Maharaj was going by that path after finishing his morning bath, and he heard that exclamation of the farmer. He quickly went ahead and asked the farmer, "What has happened?" And he said, "Oh, sir, I started out for sowing my seeds in the field, and at that time I saw that widow." Maharaj said, "My dear sir, you are ignorant. Actually, this was a good omen. Go straight ahead and sow the seeds now. You will have crops as big as a head. Why do you think in vain that this was a bad omen?" The farmer was well acquainted with Sahib Maharaj, so he was encouraged by the saint's words. Having faith that those were the words given by a saint, he went to the field and he did the sowing with great hope. Some months passed and the season came to an end. Once after that time, Saint Sahib Maharaj was passing by the farmer's house, and he met the farmer by chance and asked the farmer, "How was the crop?" And the farmer said, "It was all right, sir, but the head of that widow became as small as the cob." Actually, the field had yielded very big cobs, according to the word of Maharaj. So accordingly, the farmer said this. Vasahi Maharaj just smiled and went away. What is the moral of this story? The jiva becomes worried by his own concepts. So instead of worrying, if the devotee conducts his life with the faith that all is auspicious, all is good, all the world is God's own town, all is of the nature and religion of God, it is God who is active everywhere, then there is nothing other than God, and all profit and loss is for God only, and it belongs only to Him. In this way he will be happy and have contentment. Therefore, nobody should raise unnecessary demons of doubt and become miserable. We must listen carefully to what the saints and sages tell us and ponder over their advice. By understanding the essence, we must make our life happy. We must not behave with false pride. Please believe that there is nothing in our power. God does all and gets all things done. It is God who is behind us and in front of us. Do not cut your separate existence out of the wholeness of life. Drop that nonsense. Whatever is happening is exactly perfect. When you project an imaginary person, it all seems to be unstable. Actually, there is neither high nor low. Both the sides are equal. Everything is fixed perfectly and undisturbed. If the ego is dropped, all existence is perfectly still. Nothing is unstable. At the bottom, as well as over and above, the experience that one has is that there is something that is utterly stable and very solid. That is the state that is the alive consciousness of Brahman. There is a small trifle of a ripple in that consciousness that appears to be unstable. But that small unstable thing appears to the jiva to be having such upheavals that the jiva is completely terrified. This is the strange phenomenon of this world appearance. Nobody ever thinks to find out what is at the root of this upheaval. However, what do you experience if but for a short time you take a pause in your habitual thought process and just observe and witness? It seems a very good wish that we should be always happy, with pleasures and riches at our command. But it is this desire that is at the very root of all misery. It is true that our life should be fulfilled, but what are we whose fulfillment is sought? We never question this, inquire into this. If we give this some reflection, then we will find out very clearly what and how we actually are, and what is absolutely necessary for living and for fulfillment. And the problem that confronts us, that we should have a completely happy state, will be solved instantly. There is a scheme of things which guarantees complete happiness for us, but we never bother to look at it. Instead, in vain, we set out to destroy it with our ignorant and insane concepts. Truly, we need not raise even a finger to provide for our real happiness. However, in an effort to destroy our sorrow, we try through our misconceptions to produce a mighty club. What an insane concept this is. If by leaving this madness aside, you give full attention to the moment of divine experience and find the subtle realization in that moment, you'll enjoy complete happiness and joy and the dissolution of all sorrow. O great people, by your own awareness and insight, you must discern the truth of this. Since some time in the past, the name and fame of real saints has been completely turned into ashes. Some people who have heard and learned the words of knowledge and were able to repeat them have earned public applause and have adopted the names of real saints for their own benefit. This has become rampant in society. Such people have already degraded themselves by superimposing topics of their own liking upon devotion to God, and thus the fame of the saints and sages with the purpose of enjoying the sense objects of their choosing. This has resulted in a state of affairs in which people are not ready to pay heed to what the ancient saints have told and what any real saints in the present are saying. Thus, the very wealth of all the true happiness that those saints have left behind for us is left undiscovered and unused. My dear wise people, try to get the best of this teaching. In the whole infinite universe that God has created, He has for His own pleasure created man. This form of the human race is His dear possession, a valued treasure. The Lord has created the human form by using His maximum skill and made a provision that the human being is by very nature a being full of knowledge. You do not have the experience that you have no knowledge at all. You are very certain that you have knowledge, and that certainty is quite correct. God has ordered this for the human form. You have the power to select what is true and false, good and bad, right and wrong in this world. So use it and find out who is the true saint and who is false. By finding the right master, learn from them what the saints have said and their innermost compassionate teaching. Do not discard all teachings by saying that all people are bogus and are charlatans. You must be in the natural and easy state of self-experience. Remain there and drink this nectar of divine understanding and enjoy the great bliss of supreme knowledge.